Welcome to the channel, and this week we're going to take this Genestealer Patriarch from this to this. Welcome back to the painting coach. Let's get started. So the first thing I've done is prime the model using black, and we're going to base all the purple areas first. The colour we're going to use for this is Xereus Purple, and this is really straightforward. Just paint over all those areas from the box art that you can see are purple. The reason for painting the purple parts first is going to make it easier later on. So let's get all the armour and carapace based next, and the colour we're going to use for that is Caledor Blue. Take your time with this when you get round to those areas that you've already painted purple, but otherwise you can be fairly quick with this stage. To shade all of the armour and carapace, we're going to use Nuln Oil. Now just take your time with this, we don't want it to pool anywhere, we just want to darken those recesses. And take your time, be careful not to get this over any of those purple areas either. Once that Nuln Oil is dry, we need to start highlighting, and the colour we're going to use for this is a 50-50 mix between Caledor Blue and Caledor Sky, and we're going to use this in two ways. Firstly, along the arms and the legs where we've got those wide open areas, we're going to cover them completely with this mix, just leaving the darker colour in the recesses. The other way we're going to use this is on that carapace along the back, and we're going to paint vertical lines and we're going to edge highlight using the shape of the model. And essentially what we're doing is start to build up the chitting effect of that armour. Next up is plain Caledor Sky, and we're going to use this again in a similar fashion to the previous highlight, where we start to build things up. So where we've got the arms and the legs, we're going to use it over the general area, covering most of it, leaving the darker colours in the recess. And again, when it comes to the chitting effect that we want on the carapace armour, we're going to do those same vertical lines. If you're not sure what I mean, check the video and just watch it a couple of times to make sure you're really happy with it. We'll start to add a sharper highlight now, and the colour we're going to use for that is Xereus Blue. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to catch any areas where you've got those sharp edges, using the shape of the model to get a nice crisp highlight. We're looking to highlight around where that musculature is, and again we're carrying on the same effect on the chitting armour on the back. The final highlight to really make all this blue pop is going to be with some blue horror, and we're going to use this really sparingly just on those sharpest edges and also on the sharpest parts of that carapace along the back. The next element we'll complete is that big old brain. So firstly we want to take some Screamer Pink and use this to paint all of that brain, being careful around the blue parts we've already finished, and we also want to use this to paint the tongue. The first highlight is with Pink Horror, and what we're looking to do is leave the Screamer Pink in those recesses and use the Pink Horror to highlight. Now you may find that it looks a little dirty after the first highlight, and that's because it's a thin paint, so make sure you do 2 layers over this to really help that brain start to stand out. The final highlight on the brain is with Emperor's Children, and this is a real extreme highlight that really help it pop. And what we're looking to do is again cover a similar area that we did with the Pink Horror. Now on the one side of the brain where the Patriarch has his hand, you can see that he's using his synapse to control those around him. So we want to make sure this glows a little bit like it does in the box art. So what we want to do is firstly highlight around that area using Pallid Witch Flesh, painting towards the centre of where those claws are touching. While we've got the Pallid Witch Flesh on the palette, let's use it and paint those eyes as well, because we'll use the same effect on the eyes that we're going to use on the brain. To simulate that synapse effect, we're going to use a Iyanden Yellow contrast paint. Now I'm not thinning this down, I just got a very small amount on the brush, and all I'm going to do is paint it over that Pallid Witch area on the brain, again painting in towards the middle, and you'll get a really nice glow effect. Once that's dry, we want to add a little bit of sparkle back, and we're going to do this with just a few dots of Pallid Witch Flesh. Take your time and use this really sparingly. So with the brain done and looking sparkly, let's move on to the purple parts, and the colour I'm going to use for this is Genestealer Purple. Now generally I'm going to paint all of the areas using Genestealer Purple, only leaving that Xereus Purple in the absolute darkest recesses. My Genestealer Purple is really thin, so you may need a couple of coats to cover it, just like I did. With a nice even coverage of Genestealer Purple, we can move on to highlight, and the first highlight we're going to use is Warpfiend Grey. This is kind of a grey purpley colour that's really going to help you get that kind of standout effect you see on the box art. So essentially what we're looking to do is catch all those raised areas, all the parts of the model that we can use the side of the brush to get some nice crisp highlights on, as well as all the knuckle parts, ends of the toes, etc. And the final brightest highlight is going to be with Slaanesh Grey, and what we're looking to do is we're looking to dot this around those most raised points, and we're looking to catch any sharp edges using the side of the brush. There's only one major part of the model left, and that's all the claws, the teeth and those spikes coming out of the spine area. So let's get started and base them all with Abaddon Black just to bring them all up to a fully plain black consistency. The first highlight is with the Mechanicus Standard Grey, and we want to get a nice crisp highlight, so use the shape of the model and pull your brush along the edge of those areas to get that nice crisp highlight. Make sure you haven't got too much on your brush, and for the best result, make sure you do it all in one motion. And the final highlight to simulate how sharp these areas are is going to be with Administratum Grey. We're going to use exactly the same technique as previously with the Mechanicus Standard Grey, except this time we're going to just focus on the tips of those areas. And once that's done, you can base the model to match the rest of your army, and this Genestealer Patriarch is done. And there we have it. This Patriarch is done, ready to raise a cult against the Imperium. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, leave a comment, check out my Patreon, or maybe watch some of my other content. I'll see you next time.